Welcome everybody. This is your results and thoughts for AEW Revolution 2023 here on Tap Out Talk. I am your host, Bryan, the Hype, Ballard, back with it again. And we're going to discuss. I have been wanting to talk, and I've wanted to discuss, and I had to marinate because great things take time sometimes, and that's why I'm getting this review out now. Just like this main event tonight with MJF and Bryan Danielson. That took time, it marinated, it baked, and at the end of the day, we had an amazing meal to gobble up on this evening of the Sunday night. Join me, go ahead, we're going to go over some overall thoughts, where we're going to go in the future on the brink of AEW Dynamite tonight on Wednesday. But let's get our overall thoughts. Alright guys, welcome to the show, and we are going to go ahead and get started. So, we start out the show, everyone is banned from ringside. We got Chris Jericho versus Ricky Starks. A feud that's been building up for a little while, a little back and forth. I remember at one point in time they wanted Ricky Starks to join the JAS, the Jericho Appreciation Society. This matchup really showcased Ricky Starks really well tonight. What I want to also talk about a little bit is the fact that, I got it wrong at AEW Revolution. There were some things that were wrong as well, but from top to bottom we'll talk about it. And it's weird, right? Because I thought in my predictions, and I'll give you them as we go through the card here, but I thought that Chris Jericho was going to take this one. Jericho is the best locker room guy that you would want in a company, and a veteran. I've made the point, Chris Jericho is to AEW what Hulk Hogan should have been to WCW. Not when it comes to creative, not when it comes to recognition, but when it comes to being a locker room leader and being a teacher and helping the young talent. And Chris Jericho has done that multiple times. You see your champion tonight, MJF. It all started with Jericho, if you think a few years ago when he started working with him and just polished one of the best main eventers in the business today. So enough about that. Chris Jericho and Ricky Starks. This is another chapter of Jericho being that veteran locker room guy. So they both come out to the ring. Judas, in my mind, plays by Fozzy. Chris Jericho emerges. There's fireworks. There's pyro. Ricky Starks' theme hits. He gets a huge pop from the crowd. By the way, shout out to my boy Carlos, and shout out to that crowd that night. And I know he was probably the loudest one in that arena. But ultimately, that crowd helped make this pay-per-view. I can say that word again, pay-per-view, because we're watching AEW. And the Ocho did his job getting the crowd hot. The first match of any card is to get the crowd up and going and hot. And Chris Jericho, you want to hit his theme song, that's going to get the crowd going quick. So ultimately, this match goes back and forth, and I felt like it was a very good back and forth between these two, and it did a really good job of highlighting Ricky Starks. So that's one of the things I think Jericho does a really good job at, is he highlights guys. He sees the talent. It's like a highlighter on a piece of paper, right? The words are the talent, and the highlighter just highlights their positives while hiding their negatives. Now, not a big Ricky Starks guy myself. I'm still getting used to him, right? I know a lot of you guys like him and you're just really over for him. I definitely think he is a strong guy you want on your card and a mid-card, and you know what, from my understanding, he's a heck of a worker behind the scenes. So, in this matchup, we get basically fans cheering, and then absolutely Ricky Starks is in the offense driver's seat at the very beginning. Jericho takes over shortly after. He dumps Starks out into the floor, and then he turns and gives the San Francisco crowd the double bird, prompting louder boos from the fans. Jericho then settles into an offensive driver's seat, and then the absolute fans break out and they chant, "Let's go Ricky, Y2J." And I imagine it was just extra there. So, goes on later in the match. We see Starks come off the ropes with a tornado DDT, and he slows down Jericho's momentum by buying him some much needed time to recover. And then Jericho and Starks head to the top rope together, and Jericho looks for the top rope suplex. Starks fights out of it, drops down to Jericho with an inverted suplex. He leaps off afterwards, but Jericho catches him in his injured ribs on the way down with a big knee. Jericho hits the spot for a fall, basically a near fall. Jericho fights back, but runs into a bigger spear from Starks for a near fall of his own. Starks finishes this one moments later for the win, and that is the end. Ricky Starks does go on to win this matchup. So I want you guys to also think, this was supposed to be a no-holds-barred match, or excuse me, a everyone banned from ringside match, right? Sammy Guevara comes down at some point and helps interfere in this matchup, right? And I think that needs to carry over into future storylines, because I think there needs to be almost an authority figure needs to happen on AEW in order to enforce these kind of things. Right now we got a little bit of the inmates running the asylum, right? Why not Tony Schiavone? Just gonna throw that out there. Maybe he could be the advocate for Tony Khan, like what we've seen later on in this pay-per-view more often, right? So maybe that is one option. But anyway, let's go on to the next matchup. The next matchup we shall. It's no holds barred. Jungle Boy Jack Perry versus Christian Cage. And this is definitely one of the final matches. This is a hybrid between a buried alive match and a casket match. Up on the stage, they got a casket with some black drapes around it. A casket's in the middle, and there's a clear, goes right to the bottom of the stage. Not as cool as the WWF back in the days with the whole actual buried alive match with the grass and the dirt, right? But this one will do. And this is your final payoff feud. So this has been going on for a while. Christian Cage playing, I'm going to say, the manipulative bastard, right, to Jack Perry and Luchasaurus's friendship, which he actually successfully split them up. And it ended with a very good cage match between Jack Perry and Luchasaurus at the last show. But now we've got Christian Cage and the final payoff here for this one. I love the evolution. This was just Jungle Boy, right? But Jungle Boy slowly is shedding that name, and now he's Jungle Boy Jack Perry. And I love the fact that we see the evolution of him. We got no Luchasaurus tonight, which I was surprised. So it's kind of, where is he? But I think this was just meant to be kind of about these guys. So at this point, Christian comes out. His theme hits, and he's wearing all black because, they're trying to keep with the funeral theme, right? But he's wearing a black, sleeveless turtleneck. That's basically kind of how I explain his tights. A black, sleeveless turtleneck. And he pulled it off, and the fans seemed to like it. So then, we also, at that point, we get Jungle Boy Jack Perry's theme hitting. It's always popular, right? And then, after that, we seem to get a little, the bell sounds, and we get a lot of brawl. We get a lot of action. They brawl through the sea of fans. They go throughout the Chase Center that night. Again, the fans are just crazy for the first 3 minutes of the bout. And as the brawl continues, they fight back over the barricade. They go up on the entrance to the ramp near the casket, and where that hole in the ground is up there I mentioned, and where the burial must take place. You got to bury somebody in this case, and for it to be over. Jungle Boy hits a big spot, slamming the Cage, Christian Cage hard on the ramp. And then they get back to the ring. They do the 10-punch spot in the corner. He also bites the face of Christian Cage, and then who eventually escapes and blasts Jungle Boy with a blatant low blow to shift the offensive momentum to himself. We see Christian stand on the long hair of Jungle Boy. He yanks his arm back behind his back hard, and he calls Jack Perry a loser as he continues to beat him down, and the fans try to rally behind him for the former Jurassic Express tag team member, right? The two fight over again. They go back up near the dirt / grave / casket. Jungle Boy, Cage beats down Jungle Boy some more, slamming him into the casket. They repeatedly bash each other, and then he opens up the casket and he puts him inside. And then before he can shut the lid, however, Jungle Boy starts fighting back. Cage uses some dirty tricks, including a handful of dirt in the eyes. Jungle Boy then goes to help. Basically, at that point, we see Christian Cage setting a chair up under Jungle Boy's face. We see a lot of action back and forth. We see some spots with a shovel at this point, right? And then Jungle Boy then puts on a snare trap submission, I believe it's called, finisher on Cage right next to the hole, and he uses the shovel and basically at that point as his finisher and pulls back and grinds his teeth, Cage's teeth that is, as using the handle of the shovel. He lays Cage on face on the chair and then blasts him with another concerto of his own. He then drags the lifeless Cage over the casket, puts him in, slams the lid shut, and then the casket, and then he falls into the hole of the match and ends, and Jungle Boy wins. So this was definitely the match that was meant to be kind of the follow-up, right? So you had more of a traditional match in that first match, and this one was that gimmick match. I think it did its job. I think it helped solidify Jack Perry, and I think Christian Cage did his job tonight. That's one way you get rid of him. So I think we don't see Christian for a while. He's buried, and he's away. Now, I want you guys to notice the theme right now tonight. You've got Ricky Starks winning, and you got Jungle Boy Jack Perry winning. Ricky Starks over Chris Jericho, and Jungle Boy Jack Perry over Christian Cage. A couple Americans beating the Canadians. No, I'm kidding. Actually, what you got tonight is you got the veterans in this pay-per-view putting over the young talent. That's a theme tonight. It's a theme I wasn't too sure was going to play out. I knew it would play out a little bit, but I did not, think it was going to play out so strong tonight. But man, that is the theme of the night. And they always say sometimes you see that opening theme of the match and you're going to get the theme of the night. Up next, we had a very good match with the AEW Trios Championships. The Elite coming fresh out of that best of 7 series with the Death Triangle. Amazing series. I loved watching it. It was fun. It spread over the shows in the winter months when wrestling gets a little dull. And at the end, I think we kind of knew the Elite were going to capture it and keep it. Their next challengers here now tonight are going to be the House of Black. And we've had some storylines kind of go through here. We get, Omega out into the ring with the Young Bucks. And then we get the House of Black coming out next. And then basically what we actually get is, this match tonight. I thought the Elite were actually going to retain. I said, no, they just came out of the best of 7 series. It's too soon for them to lose that title. And they actually did. The House of Black pulled off the win and won these trio titles tonight. I'm going to say, honestly, I was a little shocked. And I feel like it's too soon to be changing the titles. I always hate hot potato in the titles, as you guys call it, right? So I really felt like with the titles being so new as they are, they should have stayed on the Elite for a very long time. We did get Don Callis on commentary here during this too, kind of beefing up the Elite. I like that. I thought that added to it and added just a different spice to this trios tag match. But I'm not mad at the House of Black winning, right? Aleister Black's come a long way. You got Buddy Matthews, who is one of the best wrestlers out on their roster. And then you got Brody King. Brody King is intriguing to me. A lot of you guys know him from Ring of Honor days. I'm a little bit newer to him. I didn't watch as much, right? But I do, I'm intrigued by him. And for a big man, he's intriguing to watch and to move. So, in this match, right, things settle down in the ring after the entrances, and the lights come back on. And then, basically, again, like I said, Don Callis is joining Jim Ross, Excalibur, and Tony Schiavone on the call for this. And the bell sounds, and the fans are chanting, Elite, Elite, Elite. We see Kenny and Buddy Matthews kick it off. I'm not going to try to break all this down for you guys because, frankly, there was so much that happened on there, and it was just kind of all over the place. And you're going to see that kind of a lot tonight, so I just want to give you my overall thoughts, too. But you get some good action and some offense with Brody King in there. You get some multiple action with all the men brawling. Omega eventually hits a V-trigger after the Butts hit super kicks. And the Elite kind of go back forth with these guys all through the match. At this point, then we do see some Omega taking it to Malachi Black. Did I say Aleister Black earlier? I think I did. But you guys know what I'm talking about. Malachi Black and the Young Bucks then, again, they're kind of just going back and forth. And at the end of it, Omega loses these titles, right? They lose the titles We have new trios champions. Don Callis is mad. He's throwing his headset in frustration. Jim Ross thanks the guys for having him before leaving. So Jim Ross, I guess that's maybe it. Tony Schiavone will take, again, his spot in the second half of this show, which it seemed like it went really quick. I was kind of bummed that we wouldn't get Jim Ross to call the main event. It was a little, right? But again, you know, Omega looking distraught, Don Callis looking mad. We'll see kind of what plays out of this afterwards. But your new champion is the House of Black. And I can't help, again, here's another theme, right? We got the younger guys kind of getting put over by some of these veterans of the ring. So 3 for 3 on that. Let's move on. All right, we got the AEW Women's Championship. Saraya, which is known as Paige in WWE. We got Jamie Hayter, your world champion, your new world champion, right? From last time. And then you got Ruby Soho, aka Ruby Riott from WWE. Trios match, or triple threat match. So we have all these ladies, and again, here's the theme of the night again. 4 for 4. Jamie Hayter remains your women's champion. Again, I gotta say, I'm intrigued, right, in this match. It was the right call. There was a lot of build-up with Toni Storm and talk with Toni Storm kind of throughout this pay-per-view pre-show build. But at the end of the day, yeah, Jamie Hayter was the right one to go with. Jamie Hayter, I feel, is kind of what Saraya or Paige was early in her career as far as over, right? And it's interesting because the AEW is building a new, young cornerstone here for the future. And I noticed that's been the shift ever since the post-show with Punk and that blow-up, and they kind of shifted towards the AEW homegrown stars and shifted over towards, let's kind of build our guys up, right, and have them beat these ex-WWE guys a little bit. So, again, not a bad match. I thought they just went out there and kind of really gave it all. Saraya, we get a little bit of everything here with Ruby and Saraya and Hayter, and they're just kind of all over, right? Jamie Hayter again. Soho and Hayter start trading roll-ups until Hayter grabs a crucifix on Soho for the pinfall victory. So that's how it kind of ended up. With the win, Jamie Hayter retained the championship. And once the match wraps up, we see Toni Storm lay out Britt Baker and attack Jamie Hayter with Saraya. Baker broke things up as Soho was sitting in the corner watching this happen. She launched Saraya and Storm to the floor, saying they don't run the place. And then she held up Hayter's hand, and then only to lay her, both her and Baker out with the no future. Soho took the spray paint, sprayed the L on Baker and Hayter as she officially aligned herself with Storm and Saraya. So it's interesting, right? Storm, Saraya, and Ruby, all ex-WWE girls. And then you got Hayter, Baker, the AEW originals. And I don't know where this is going to lead to, but it's got to lead somewhere, right? So it'd be interesting to see who else gets added to the fold. Maybe is this where we see, a Jade Cargill kind of join as an AEW original? And maybe that's the route we go with her, right? Maybe we put her into kind of a 6-woman tag, like a 3-on-3 tag situation. And maybe we get Jade introduced in this as representing AEW because she's that face of that TNT title, right? TBS, I believe, title. Sorry. Basically, at this point, that maybe that's where this goes in the future. But I think Jade would probably do well to kind of work with these girls off to the side and not be in a direct one-on-one match and have a little bit of a distraction from those singles run that she's been having. Maybe it can even go where she takes the pinfall and takes her first pinfall since being a champion. Let's go on. Up next, we got the Texas Death Match. Jon Moxley versus Hangman Adam Page. All right, guys. So this one, it's interesting, right? If you are a fan of Texas Death Matches, you're going to enjoy this. If you're not a fan of this style of wrestling, you're just simply not going to like it. Okay, I've seen lots of debate in the community about it back and forth. I kind of wonder, is there a correlation? If you watched ECW back in the day, not the WWE version, ECW, where you had to almost trade videotapes back in the day to watch this stuff out of Philly, right? maybe you watched that. Tonight, this match will give you that ECW fix. Jon Moxley and Adam Hangman Page. And we get a deep rooted package here, kind of recapping everything. And Adam Page, came out to a new theme song tonight. I was told it's a one and done, but we'll kind of see if that actually pans out to be true or not. But this matchup was all over. This was a brawler. This was Jon Moxley, kind of getting to do the matches that he wants to do in AEW, right? We get a lot of different stuff here. We get chairs, we get chains, we get all kinds of things, right? The winner ends up being Adam Hangman Page, right? Or Hangman Adam Page. At the end, the finish, we see Mox counter with a buckshot lariat attempt by Page with a huge paradigm shift. He follows that up with honestly, he hits a Seth Rollins style curb stomp to Page slamming his head first into the brick that was there. And then as the action continues, however, it's Page who ends up tapping out to Mox, and they go up 2-1 in this trilogy, right? So it was a good match, really great match. Also, you've seen a point where Hangman Adam Page actually hung somebody with the chains and the rope, and he actually had Moxley. It was a very vicious match. Mox was bleeding, I want to say a couple minutes into the match, it felt like. I mean, he was, bleeding profusely all over Crimson Mask style, right? And it was very old school. It was very pay-per-view-like, right? It's not something I want to see weekly on Dynamite, but man, it felt special, and I feel like this is where Jon Moxley does his best work sometimes. I also want to say, bring up this point. You guys remember when Jon Moxley, aka Dean Ambrose at the time, fought Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania? Yeah, it's hard to remember because the match was not good, right? It happened years ago. And from what I gathered, and what I heard, there was a lot of, items and things that Jon Moxley wanted to do against Brock Lesnar, and Brock Lesnar refused to do all of it. And he said, no, I don't want to do that. No, I don't want to do that. And Moxley knew he was going to lose to Brock Lesnar, but he wanted to pitch all these kind of extra things in this grudge match. And what happened was he got to do nothing, and I think that's why the match was not that good, right? And so ultimately, I think that, this is kind of like what Jon Moxley may have pitched in that Brock Lesnar Mania match. Imagine if he would have gotten to do those kind of things at WrestleMania. Can you guys think of when we had a good hardcore match at WrestleMania? I'm not talking the hardcore title. I'm talking a good hardcore match. The last one that comes to mind for me was Edge versus Mick Foley. There was fire, there's the table, there's the spear. That was a good image. I feel like Jon Moxley wanted to do that with Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania and never got to. So now we got Jon Moxley giving that match to us against Hangman Adam Page. Hangman Adam Page getting put over by Jon Moxley. You notice the theme continues tonight. That's interesting. AEW Originals getting a lot of time, and the veterans giving them a lot of nods going into this New Year Revolution. Could that be the theme that we see all year long from our champion down? Also, what's next for both of these guys here? Jon Moxley, I could see possibly going, maybe tag teaming with a Daniel Bryan. Make a run for the tag team titles as the Blackpool Combat Club. I like that. Hangman Adam Page. Is it the world title? MJF? There's a lot of that, and MJF talked a little bit about it, along with other things, in that post-media scrum. Let's move on. All right, we had Samoa Joe versus Wardlow. This match, for a lot of people, it felt like it just died down. And I think you were coming out of that Texas death match, right? And it was like the bathroom break for some people. We got a story with Wardlow getting his hair cut. Ultimately, this was the TNT title on the line. And so Samoa Joe and Wardlow, kind of a quicker one. It didn't really do too much for me, really. It wasn't horrible, but it wasn't amazing either. It's kind of forgettable. Wardlow regains his title that he only lost a few weeks ago, so kind of do this back and forth passing. And this is basically Samoa Joe, the veteran, again, putting over the AEW original. I'm just kind of keep pointing that out all night long, guys. So Wardlow, again, is the new TNT champion, 2-time now. And Wardlow, my question is, when we first got him, I had some Batista-like vibes for him with MJF as his bodyguard. And he decisively beat MJF less than a year ago, very dominantly. Pinned him in the opening match, Double or Nothing. With multiple, it was just a squash. Wardlow's cooled off a lot. I feel like that's by design. And I feel like they need to just kind of keep him floated a little bit. Or distracted with good feuds. And eventually I do see Wardlow possibly being the guy that dethrones MJF. I will be honest with you guys, that's not going to happen anytime soon. I like Wardlow. Cleveland, Ohio native. I like Samoa Joe, right? But this match, I don't know, just the two didn't seem to gel for me in this one. But, let me know what you guys think. I mean, I just feel like it was the low light of the night. And, I guess that says something because it was a pretty good card overall. All right, guys, I just want to say real quick, thank you for, everything you guys do for me. Even just listening or commenting below or even liking this, right? It just helps me out so much. Shout out to my stablemates over there at fansofprowrestling.com. Of course, always I mention all the time. Also Carlos, my tag title buddy, and then John and his brother Will and Heather do a really good job on Sundays, kind of talking and recapping the weeks. So again, appreciate being a fan or a part of the fansofprowrestling.com here on Tap Out Talk. So let's go ahead and move on. All right, we got the AEW World Tag Team Championships. Jeff Jarrett and Jay Lethal. We got the Guns, the Ass Boys. We got the Acclaimed, and we got Orange Cassidy and Danhausen, right? So, if this one, I was gonna say it was served its purpose as a pre-cool down match for the main event where we knew we had to stand for an hour. Danhausen's over. Orange Cassidy's over. Those are some fan favorites, right? I can't get on with the Danhausen thing. I've tried. I see. I get it. Maybe I'm just approaching him wrong, right? I know you guys that love him, you love him. I like Orange Cassidy. He's fun. He's entertaining. And, a lot of people, when you guys look at people like that, you say, oh, well, he's not world champion material. You know what? Wrestling needs mid-carders. You need good, solid mid-carders. And that's what you got with Orange Cassidy. So, in this matchup, we did get the Guns retaining their tag team championships, right? It's interesting, right? Because, some people, I was thinking maybe the Acclaimed could get their titles back in this one. I didn't think Danhausen and Orange Cassidy were winning anything. And at this point, we see the Guns basically steal the win, and they retain their titles tonight, right? Jeff Jarrett was there serving that kind of veteran role with Jay Lethal. But, it's kind of hard because I think it's probably right to have the Guns retain. I'm surprised we didn't get anything with Daddy S. I thought he was going to be a little bit more involved in maybe a heel turn, or turning and joining his boys again, but I think maybe that's in the future. So again, AEW champions, the Guns. I don't want to spend too much crazy time on this because, you know what, guys? It's almost time for the main event. And what a main event we have. We have Daniel Bryan coming out first. It's going to be the 60-minute Iron Man match. The American Dragon versus MJF. MJF, Maxwell Jacob Friedman. One of the best wrestlers in the main event today. He can talk, he can wrestle, and he proved it tonight. MJF's the man, guys. His post-conference scrum was entertaining as all get out. I couldn't stop watching. Even non-wrestling fans were enjoying it. But let's get into the match. And let's talk a little bit about what's going on this one. All right, so 1 hour, 60 minutes, Iron Man match. And you can't help but compare this match to previous Iron Man matches. What comes to mind? Well, you got Brock Lesnar and Kurt Angle from SmackDown many years ago. You've got The Rock versus Triple H, I believe at Judgment Day many years ago. And if you want to dig a little deeper, yeah, you got the granddaddy of them all at WrestleMania, Shawn Michaels versus Bret the Hitman Hart in the main event of WrestleMania 12. One of the greatest matches of all time. Could this match live up to that hype? Could this match live up to what was done by Bryan Danielson's mentor, Shawn Michaels? Well, yeah, we're going to find out, and we did find out. It does. This is going to be the argument for centuries to come. Daniel Bryan and MJF, or is it going to be Shawn Michaels or Bret Hart? That's your LeBron James, Michael Jordan debate that people talk about in the barbershops all the time. I'm here to tell you that this match delivered. This match was the single reason to watch this pay-per-view. It reminded me of an old school boxing match or an UFC match where the main event is the main event. The undercard's just there to kind of get everybody going and entertain them. But this match was the reason you bought this show, and this was the match and the reason that you wanted to watch. My dream match was always Daniel Bryan versus CM Punk in an Iron Man match at WrestleMania. And that got stolen from me many years ago. I thought it was going to happen in AEW. I said it should happen in AEW. And guess what? It got stolen again this last year. But you know, I feel like we got something even better. We got MJF as world champion. And notice the theme here. Getting put over by Bryan Danielson, the veteran. Yeah, you said it right. From top to bottom of this card, the young guys are taking over. And MJF is the cream of the crop, the creme de la creme, and he is ahead of all of that. So we get a lot. I'm not going to break down every single move in this match. It's an hour, guys, and I want to keep this straight to my points. But I will say we get MJF coming out with like a quartet of violins, kind of cool, with a devil mask. With his, you know, Burberry branded championship. I mean, he just looks like a champion now. I think he's hit the gym a lot, too, because he's starting to get a lot of build on him. I'm going to get to see him hopefully in a couple weeks here when I go down to one of the house shows that's coming up. I'll give you guys some updates on that. So, here, we hear basically the fans are just going nuts for this, right? And this match had a great blend, and it's something I didn't think of when we were going to watch this match. It had Bryan Danielson, who can go. He can go an hour. He's one of the best wrestlers in the world. And then you got MJF, a good wrestler, but also a very good heel entertainer. And that blended balance made a perfect meal. We ate it up. Things that he does, and MJF is very good at being a heel in the modern era. You know how many guys are scared to be real heels in this era? They're scared. They're scared to commit because guess what? You got everybody video recording where you're at, tweeting that you're at the airport, what hotel you're staying at. And some people are crazy, and they're going to just follow these guys around and show them. And they still are going to think that this is so real that that's a personal attack on them, they're going to come at them. A lot of guys don't have the guts that MJF has to be a modern day heel and say, screw it, I'm going to be about it. That's why he's special. He plays it 24/7. He gets his parents in the act. Remember all that? But I want you guys to think about this as a champion, okay? It ends up being 3-3. MJF does some great heel tactics with, you know, taking a disqualification to get a super advantage, knowing he would go down a score. Grabs a bottled water, a drink from a mom in a crowd and dumps it on her kid. There's a brilliant point with, you know, Dave Meltzer's 5-star match, rating match, he looks at camera and says, when he slows down the pace, he goes, "Sorry, Dave." He goes, "Is this going to cost me a star?" Love that. Thought it was hilarious. Amazing. I'll be interested to see what Dave rates this match now. He's kind of backed in the corner there. But ultimately, I respect his opinion, but ultimately we have, this blended balance between the wrestler and the entertainer in a sense. And these guys just knocked it out of the park. MJF, he's been marinating for a long time in AEW. Okay? Chris Jericho. It always starts with Chris. He polished him up, like I said in the beginning of the program tonight. He polished him up. There was already so much talent there, and he just kind of fine-tuned the little things, and MJF took a next level. Dean Ambrose, a.k.a. Jon Moxley. MJF has beaten him as well. So Chris Jericho, Jon Moxley, CM Punk in that year-long program. One of the best in the world. Probably MJF's greatest rivalry for now. And then you have Bryan Danielson. The American Dragon versus the Devil. So Bryan Danielson has, he put him over. Somebody, for fun, add up all those championships of guys that he beat that are ex-WWE main eventers. 3 out of the 4 of those guys main evented WrestleMania. Right? And I'm not talking the double night main event, whatever, the actual last match on the card main event. Okay? So, what I want to really point out here is how many championships is that MJF has beaten in his tenure in AEW. Give all those titles to him. You want to call Kenny Omega Kenny the Collector, man, MJF's right there. Collecting legacies. This match went into overtime, 3-on-3. This is where we got Tony Schiavone kind of commenting that he spoke to Tony Khan and that it will not end on a tie or a draw. And so, they continue on, and eventually MJF gets the better of Bryan Danielson. And so it's interesting because I like that whole Tony Schiavone spot representing the boss in the back, I think that was kind of good. Maybe he needs to do that a little more for him. But guys, 4-3 in sudden death. MJF's the champ, and it's basically, in my opinion, tonight was a great main event. This was a great match. I want to see it again. I want to just watch it and break it down. I actually want to watch the original Iron Man match from WrestleMania 12 with Bret and Shawn and then compare it to this. I'm still a little excited about this one. I want to get to the final thoughts. All right, so final thoughts. Iron Man matches are amazing. They tell a special, unique story. And the story for this one was only in the ring. This one actually put over MJF's legacy as the future. And no, he's not the future. He's the now of this AEW business. It's the right move. That belt has no business coming off MJF for a very long time. You keep it on him and you build the company around him. Let him do his thing. With that being said, AEW did a lot tonight to put over its younger stars, as I mentioned throughout the program. And I feel like there's this paradigm shift, so to speak, little Jon Moxley aspect, but they did paradigm shift over to the new guys. And final thought, this is the best AEW Revolution pay-per-view that the company has put on since its existence. Go back and look at that. You got Jericho Moxley. You got Omega Moxley. And last year you had Adam Page and Adam Cole. Yeah, guys, this one beats everything. This one is the best AEW Revolution pay-per-view. And I felt like it was well-paced, it didn't overstay its welcome, and it definitely hit on all the angles that we needed it to hit on. Let me ask you guys this, too. Did you notice what wrestlers are missing from tonight, and did you miss them? Guys like, Jade Cargill. Maybe not. Maybe didn't miss her. But Darby Allin, Sting, Brian Cage. I know some of you miss Brian Cage. But if I think about it, there was a lot of talent missing from this card. but it didn't feel like it. And that's the great thing about AEW is they can keep their product fresh. Even when they alternate every other week on AEW Dynamite, right? And they shift these guys around, it's constantly fresh. It reminds me of kind of what they used to do with NXT Black and Gold back in the day. Anyway, those are my final thoughts and results on AEW Revolution. Let me know what you guys think. Connect with me on Twitter at @TheBryanAdkins. But at the end of the day, we're going to go ahead and continue on. And then I want to say thank you for watching. And it's not goodbye. It's not see you later. It's game over.